And welcome back to more Pikmin. So last time, we collected 3 more ship parts in the Forest Navel, and this time we're returning to the Forest Navel to fight 2 very scary enemies. So for the beady long legs, I would recommend only bringing between 15 and 20 yellow Pikmin. Any more than that becomes a bit too hard to manage. So yeah, small numbers are good for this fight. For the Puff Stool, just bring as many red Pikmin as you can, basically. So these fights aren't terrible on a regular playthrough, but on a Deathless playthrough, I think these are some of the toughest fights in the game. A lot can go wrong with both, and it just so happens that these are the last 2 ship parts, so we have to fight both on the same day for the sake of efficiency. So for the beady long legs, walk into the arena with only Olimar to make it appear. I would recommend not walking into the arena with the Pikmin because they will likely get crushed when it falls. Once it's visible, just kind of sneak under it like this, and then toss Pikmin at the center of it. It will shake off the Pikmin. Make sure to keep an eye on the Pikmin and your numbers. I would recommend calling them a little bit before it starts to shake, just to make sure you have them all with you. Like so. Now, it can crush a lot of Pikmin at once, so make sure to keep the Pikmin away from the leg that's actually moving. I would recommend on Wii to move with Olimar, like this. On GameCube, you could swarm instead. I just find swarming so unreliable in this version with this particular camera position that I prefer just actually moving Olimar. I find it a lot more consistent. Red Pikmin can fight this enemy, if you wait till it bobs down. It's just a little bit faster fighting with yellows, even if they do less damage. It just kind of evens out, I find, to generally work out that yellow Pikmin are a bit faster. I'm kind of waiting for a good opportunity to attack it. I'm a little bit concerned that Pikmin will get crushed here. I don't know why the camera zoomed out. I don't think I pushed the D-pad. Yeah, this version has a few glitches. In an earlier attempt, I actually did have a weird glitch where the camera got stuck in an overhead perspective, and I don't know how it happened. Like, I could not switch back for some reason. Yeah, just keep tabs on the Pikmin, stay in the middle, try to play it safe, especially on the Deathless run, and it shouldn't be too bad. We have plenty of time, we're only getting 1 more ship part after this, and it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, try not to rush it too much, it's almost done, and we should be good to go. I think what was happening, why it felt like I was zooming out, was I was recentering it in such a way that it was clipping the ledge. I think that's what happened, but I'm not sure. The guard satellite. Deep space is filled with dangers. This automated satellite does its part to help guard both me and my spaceship. I'll sleep better at night once this little satellite is back on duty. So, we're gonna leave the yellow Pikmin and the guard satellite for later. For now, I want to see where these enemies are. Kind of in a straight line. If I can kind of lure them over... Oh, they're moving closer to the pathway. The Shearwigs are very difficult to fight in most cases, because they will regenerate health, so you actually do have to fight them with Pikmin. In cases where I can fight enemies with Olimar, I definitely prefer it. This is a case where we have to fight them with Pikmin. I recommend either going for direct hits or throwing behind, and then once it starts flying, a single throw will take it out. Throwing in front is very dangerous because they can also become invincible, like the Shear Grubs. So yeah, generally throw behind, and hope for the best. Do enough damage so it starts flying, and then toss Pikmin carefully to avoid summoning more, like so. There are more, by the way, than beyond this path. That was risky, I threw it in front, but it worked out. That should be enough to get by safely. But we have another fight. The Puff Stool is one of the worst enemies in the entire game for the crushing glitch. So to avoid it, I am going to actually attack it with Olimar until it trips, and then bring over the Pikmin. So once it's flipped over, just toss Pikmin at it. Be very careful. I'm gonna call them back, actually. That was a bad camera perspective. Once it flips back over, it will release spores that will poison the Pikmin and turn them into basically like zombies that will attack Olimar. Yeah, once it flips over, any Pikmin nearby it will basically get crushed by the crushing glitch. So this is why I'm fighting it so slowly. Okay, so far so good. I found the Omega Stabilizer. I absolutely must have this piece if my battered ship is ever to fly again. It has steered me through countless deep space storms. That, and it looks rather cool. You know, clearly the more important reason of the two. Actually, what am I doing? I don't want to carry this back yet. I want to make sure the path is safe. Alright, we have another Wollywog, over here. So what we want to do is kind of like with the anti-dioxin filter, we want to lure it really far away. Also, I can fight these, no problem. Now, there are 2 sheer wigs and 3 sheer grubs, so I can take out the sheer grubs at least, no problem. Sheer wigs I can't deal with. The Wollywog I want to lure over to this big open space here, like roughly about here. So if it jumps to this spot, it should be far enough away that it won't be able to target the Pikmin. Alright, so now with all of that set up, let's start carrying things back. The Puff Stool will give you about 30 Pikmin, I think? It's a lot more than a regular enemy, but not as much as like the Pearly Clamp Pearl or the Armored Cane Beetle. Still a great way to get Pikmin very quickly. So yeah, we're safe here. I'm gonna duck ahead and make sure this pathway is safe. If a sheer wig starts to appear, I'm gonna call the Pikmin away as soon as possible. This should be fine though, I hope. Cool. That's a good sign. That's a bigger object, so it should be okay. And from this point on, let's get the Guard Satellite. The Guard Satellite takes 20 Pikmin to move, so not too bad. There is fire, so we do need the red Pikmin to carry it back. The yellow Pikmin will most likely get scorched in any attempt to carry that back themselves. Alright, so that actually went pretty smoothly. Yeah, these fights are really scary to perform on a Deathless run. Definitely daunting opponents, even more so than anything in the distant spring, oddly enough, even though that's a technically later area. But we did it. And we have plenty of time, too. I like leaving an entire day for this, because you never know how unpredictable enemy spawn locations can be, and other factors as well. But yeah, not bad. So, I think we might try to get more flower Pikmin in the meantime, after the ship parts are returned. Guard Satellite. This has protected me from space pirates many times. I have now recovered 18 out of 30 parts. If I can find just 11 more, I should be able to increase my ship's capabilities. And the remaining 10 parts that we need are in the distant spring, so that's where we'll be headed next time. But for now... Omega Stabilizer. This is the dolphin's fin. It is a little beaten up, but it should still function. I've made great strides in repairing the dolphin. With this, I should be able to fly again even if I don't recover all 30 parts. I have now recovered 19 out of 30 parts. If I can find just 10 more, I should be able to increase my ship's capabilities. So yes, both of these are required. The the last 2 more of the optional parts are in the Distant Spring, and the final one is, weirdly enough, in the final area once we get the initial 29. Okay, so we have a little bit of nectar here. I did notice not every red Pikmin was a flower, meaning everything beyond this point won't be a flower Pikmin, so let's take care of that really quickly. We don't really need red Pikmin actually, beyond one encounter in the Distant Spring. Most things we'll be able to take care of with the blue, or even the yellow Pikmin actually. So yeah, I do find this to be the hardest area, next to the final area, which obviously has the final boss, so that is the legitimate scariest area. But beyond that, I find this is the second toughest, because of having so many bosses. The Armored Cannon Beetle and the Forest of Hope and the Snagrets are relatively manageable by comparison, even though those are also bosses. But yeah, I am glad to be done with this area. I also don't really like this area in general because it's kind of bleaker than other areas. Like, it's less visually appealing because it's more cave-like. In general, I think Pikmin's visuals hold up pretty well, but I do find that just some of the environments like this are a little bit bleaker, but I do like the little mushrooms in the background. That's a nice little visual detail. I'm not gonna carry these back because I think, yeah, this might be a problem here. Yeah, we made it through without fighting a ton of enemies, which was helpful. Luckily, a lot of enemies were in good positions that they didn't get too in the way. But also, really quickly, I do want to double check how many flower Pikmin I have for the blue side, because we'll be needing a ton of blue Pikmin. Starting, I think, day 10, specifically. I think day 9, we're gonna have kind of a mixed group of blue and yellow Pikmin, but starting with day 10, it's gonna be mostly blue Pikmin. At the rate we're going, we're probably going to finish in roughly by, like, day 14 or so, which is pretty good. I don't remember what my best was. I wasn't really going for, like, my best time or anything with this playthrough, especially because I'm so generally unfamiliar with the Wii version. So far it's been pretty smooth. Like, outside of a few little quirks that I've had to work around for the sake of not having to worry about glitches as much, yeah, the Wii version has been pretty fun so far. The first time I played the Wii version, I actually really didn't like it because things like swarming tactics were more prone to the crushing glitch, so I really didn't like it. But now, I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with this version. If you have a Wii U or Wii, this is still a great way to play the game. So yeah, by the way, there are still these enemies over here, and this wall. One thing to note is, this is a really good shortcut, by the way, because this goes, like, for the Libra, the computer, and a few other parts, this would create a straight shot to the landing site. But the reason I never break this wall is, there are a lot more enemies. I've tried going this way before, but these enemies will just pick off the Pikmin, so it takes a lot of time just to fight them. So I tend to just like to go around. It doesn't waste too much time. So in terms of walls, I usually only break this one, the one by the ship there, and the two leading to the bosses. I like how there are options, though, like you can break down more walls for more shortcuts, and we'll actually be seeing that quite a bit in the Distant Spring. Lots of optional alternate shortcuts and pathways, some of which we will be using, and others we will not. But with that being said, I think we're just about done here, so I am going to call it a day. 8 days since impact. The Pikmin always carry their prey back to the onions. Close observation indicates that taking food pellets to onions of the same color results in the release of larger numbers of Pikmin seeds. I've also found ways to group Pikmin by color. I can hold A to grab one, then press B to swap it out. Or I can press A to grab one for a moment, or press C to dismiss them into like-colored groups. So if there isn't any, major event in a day, he'll just give you, tutorial information. Sometimes enemy bios as well, if you go enough days. Normally I finish the game so quickly that I don't see all Olimar's ship logs, even. Now we have 11 parts remaining in 22 days, so we're well on our way to being finished in roughly half the time allotted to us. On the subject of Olimar's ship log, you can press plus to view previous entries if you'd like. So yeah, kind of a neat feature. There's no way to consistently get certain data entries on specific days. From what I gathered, it feels kind of random, what text you get, in terms of enemy bios and such. So I'm sure I've not even seen them all. But in any case, we have cleared out the impact site, the Forest of Hope, and now the Forest Navel. So all that's left is 12 ship parts, or wait, 10 ship parts, and the distant spring. So that's where we'll be headed next time. So thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time for more Pikmin.